What's up, Head Kick Radio listeners? We are back with another awesome episode coming your way. I'm sitting here with Scott Springfield. The man is my uncle. He's an awesome all-around dude, and we have a special episode to talk with you guys. So, Scott, what's up, uncle?
It's the Christmas episode.
It is the Christmas episode. It's coming out Monday, Christmas Eve, December 24th.
I'm honored.
Dude, I'm glad you're here. So, my uncle Scott is a pretty awesome guy. We got, I think it's about a year and a half ago, his brother and I have been talking him into doing Jiu Jitsu for the longest time. So this is essentially your 1 year anniversary, probably a few days past. And
Right.
Talk about that, man. Like, how did you let us talk you into doing Jiu Jitsu, for the first time?
Like I said, or like you said, the pressure, it's not really pressure, but when you go to all these functions, matches, fight to wins, fight to win promotions, and seeing his friends in the gym and how much of a community that is. I had lots of friends before I even started jiu-jitsu. I had lots of jiu-jitsu friends through you guys. And, my brother started taking me, say, hey, got a fight to win coming up. Mike's going to be on the card. Mike Alexander's going to be on the card. Whoever, whatever, got 5 guys that are going to be fighting that night. So I started going.
You're driving all the way down to Dallas.
I'm going to Dallas. Yeah. Now, I did see one in Oklahoma City. Jeff Glover was at that one, too. And full on donkey guard, the whole 9 yards. It was so good. But anyway, so I'm getting immersed into the sport like that. At the time, I was still a chronic pain patient. Wasn't working. Of course, I haven't worked in 11 years, but
let's jump into your backstory real quickly so everybody gets to know you. So you're a retired Army vet. You were in 19 years, 20 years?
20, just a few months shy of 21.
Oh, 20. Oh, man. Well,
yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service, Uncle.
No problem, guys. Best job I ever had.
It's a long time to be in, my friend. And so you retired and you had some medical problems, and this is what you're talking about.
I got a medical retirement, degenerative disc disease, 2 surgeries, chronic pain patient for over 10 years, 300 milligrams of morphine a day, total black hole. You don't notice it when you're in it.
Right.
And all the things in your life that changes. And I fought through that, towards the end of that 10 or 12, 15 years that I was on that medication, my pain levels kept going down and down and down, which was great for me. And I hadn't been going up on medication in years. And so pain level was 2, and it was like, doctor was saying, hey, why don't you try to come off of some of that and see how that affects your pain level. If it does, you can go right back on it. But if it doesn't, hey, we can work on it. And it didn't. And I got off of it in 6 months.
Yeah. Talk about that, because that kind of led down a dark alley for a while. Because
yeah.
I always tell a story of, growing up with you as a kid. There was it was the 2 tales of my Uncle Scott. Like, as a kid, you were, I looked forward to coming and hanging out with you and Joseph. And,
right.
And just doing all the fun sport activities we used to do back when you were, still training and in good shape.
I was young back then.
and it was fun. But then I remember right around the time you were getting out and you started getting on the morphine, and then it just seemed kind of like it was just a darker time. And
yeah, it was.
Did you catch that when you were kind of sliding into it yourself?
No. At the time I needed it. I was, anybody who's ever gone through that knows, that, they have to reach out for help. And, I needed that at the time in my life. And, along with all that comes chronic depression, and, it's a cascading effect. And so I turned around and I missed a lot. I missed a lot of you guys, the kids, growing up. Joe was probably, he graduated about that time.
Yeah, I was going to say we were around 14, 15, I think, is when it really got noticeable. And
yeah. And so.
But you had a younger daughter too at the time.
Yeah, and Mary was, she was 7 years younger than Joe is.
Yeah.
And so, it affected her too because she grew up in sports. Joe was wrestling for 13 years, and I caught all those matches that I could, and tried to help him as best I could. Now my brain, I had to start thinking different. I can't grapple with my son. I can't, help him on the mat. So I have to try to help him in his diet, in his exercise. I was trying to still, be as much of a full parent as I could at the time. And you have to change your mentality when you can't do those physical things anymore. And I never thought I'd ever be able to do anything physically anymore.
And that had to be tough, especially since, your son was such an amazing wrestler in high school at, one of the biggest school districts here in Oklahoma.
5A, two-time state qualifier, state runner-up, and all-state.
Yeah, his senior year. You remember that? Because I used to come meet up with you, and we'd sit in the bleachers together and watch a lot of his, meets here in Norman especially. I wouldn't travel as much as you did, but do you remember when we went and watched him in state? And I'm only saying this because I rag him still today about it. The only time I've ever seen him get manhandled was by that sophomore when he was a senior. In the state finals, kid, his dad was a 3-time All-American at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah,
which that it was in that kid's bloodlines. And I just said to him, and that was the first time I've ever seen anybody ever get to him too, and get in his head, and we just looked at each other like, oh, this is not good. Like that was the one time we ever were concerned.
Yeah, he had a bad streak for he started as a freshman, and that's unheard of in 5A really, but him and 3 or 4 other guys have been doing it for probably 8 years by the time they got there.
Yeah, all through Little League and up through middle school.
Yeah, exactly. And he would get sick every year the week of state, and it was a curse on him. He didn't qualify for the first couple of years in high school, but the last, junior, senior year, he qualified.
Mm-hmm. Was that hard, though, as a parent? Because he wrestled at 133 his senior year. I do remember that. And I think he was a little lighter than that before, but he didn't have much body fat to lose. Was that hard as a parent?
It was because I'd seen that growing up, watching him grow up in wrestling. And I can remember, I think it was his sophomore year, I think, coach was wanting him to drop down to – I don't know. I can't remember the weight class, but it was about 8-10 pounds lighter than what he was already wrestling. And just so happened that we had a body fat percentage done at the doctor's like the week before, and he was sitting at 7%. So there was no way he could do that.
Yeah, every week in and week out. That was insane. I remember when we were talking about that, and I was looking at him, and I said to you, I was like, man, I'm still pretty young too, and I just don't see where he has to lose it. And you're like, because he doesn't have it to lose.
No,
that would have killed him. But as a parent, that had to be fun to watch. Your son be that good at wrestling.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I didn't realize it when he first started, because he started at 5, and he would, after we moved here to Norman, he would go to the Little League. With the Little League at the time, the training room was one of the old OU wrestling rooms at the stadium. So we'd go up there every week, 2 or 3 times a week, whatever it was, and the team that was next door, Norman Little League, was in one mat, and then the team next door was Team Oklahoma, which was run by Johnny Hendricks' dad, and Johnny was wrestling over there.
Yeah, and if you don't know Johnny Hendricks, he's former UFC welterweight champion, big time wrestler. Right. I think he was a 4-time All-American.
4-time NCAA.
All-American at Oklahoma State. So he's from Ada, Oklahoma.
Right.
He's just a bad dude when it comes to the lineage of wrestling.
And so every once in a while, the 2 teams would get together and they would wrestle together and then do the final calisthenics at the end, running sprints or whatever it is at the end of the day. And so that's where he got to meet Johnny and go on. He was friends with Johnny, not super close because they're I think they're about 5 years apart.
Yeah,
6 years
Johnny's
apart.
older than I am.
Yeah.
And Johnny married a girl from my school who's 3 grades older than me that I was friends with her brother. So I would see Johnny quite a bit when I was younger too, just because he was hanging around the Blanchard area.
Yeah.
But so he was putting in work, and now we're all trying to convince him. He's kind of the last of us in the family,
Right.
you know, besides my brother, who I don't think we're ever going to talk into jiu-jitsu,
No.
but like
Donnie.
he's the last one. Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to my brother, Donnie.
Love you, Donnie.
But Joe is the last one we're trying to suck into our cult of jiu-jitsu. And now that you're a year in, do you think we can get him in?
Yeah, there is a rumor that he has stated. That's why I'm taking my blue gi down this next week and gifting it to him for Christmas, because he's supposed to start next month. I guess my brother Brad is gonna be looking for a gym close to where he operates, a lineage through Travis
Luter.
and because he can't drive all the way over there to Fort Worth.
Yeah, that's a nice little trek. Texas is so big, and you don't realize it until you're down in it.
Well, I grew up there. I grew up as a child there in South Dallas and Oak Cliff, but it's totally different now than what it used to be. I mean, I like to go visit, but there's no way I'd live there.
Oh man, I think I would love to live there, but we'll see what the future holds for that. So let's check in. You're 1 year in, and just talking to you just before, I said to you, I don't think you've missed a week since you started, and you told me one time you missed 8 days in a row,
and that's just been this last month.
And we're talking you off the chronic neck pain and coming off the morphine. Like for those that have like an opiate, addiction and everything, like getting off the morphine, were you a little nervous starting up jiu-jitsu with the neck problems?
Getting off the morphine was really easy compared to starting jiu-jitsu.
Really? What was so hard about it to you? Because everybody battles their own demons starting jiu-jitsu.
Well, I never abused the morphine. I took it as the doctor prescribed, so I was physically dependent on it, of course, but I didn't have that extra mental crutch that, look, oh yeah, I'm high or whatever. That is a good thing about time release morphine is if you don't abuse it, you don't get high off of it. And so I never had those highs of that drug. But getting off it wasn't any big deal. The hard part was to get back into shape. I'd been
starting from ground zero again.
Sedentary lifestyle for over 10. I mean, my wife mowed the yard. That's how bad it was. So I started mowing the yard, and I would do 2 laps in the yard, and I would have to take a break, huffing and puffing, and thought I was going to have a heart attack. But doing the yard, progressed to walking, progressed to running, progressed back to doing push-ups and calisthenics, and that's one thing I know how to do is push-ups.
Yeah,
after 20 years in the Army.
So much PT.
But yeah, I got to where I was doing 150 push-ups a day, 5 days a week. And then I thought, well, if I can do this, I can go do jiu-jitsu. Well, I was wrong on that. But I see it now. It was hard as hell. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But, I usually do 3 classes a week now. I have done up to 5 classes in a week, but that's pretty rare. 3 is about all the old man's body can handle, because you got to have recovery time. It takes me way longer to recover than it does you at 30.
Right. Hey, I'm not 30 quite yet, sir. When this airs, I'll be 1 day after 30,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm not there yet.
But anyway, yeah, thank you for dragging me in the door.
Man, that was one of the biggest honors I think I've ever had in my jiu-jitsu journey. That's 3 years in now is getting to take you to that first class and how excited I was and just I was like, man, I hope he loves it as much as we do, because you know how it is. Like,
I don't know what it is about the sport that makes you love going and getting choked, but I love it. It's in my fiber now.
So let's talk about something. When I went to class with you Monday night, Cody was teaching the class, and I'm hoping to get Cody on the podcast. And before we started class, we all sat in a circle. There's about 8 or 10 of us, and Cody wanted everybody, say their name again, and then just state like, hey, why did you start jiu-jitsu? And he got to you. Do you want to share why you started jiu-jitsu?
I started jiu-jitsu because, like I said, Monday night, because of my nephew Steven and my brother and his son, Ethan. They've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now. And you, like I say, you've been doing it for 3 years now.
Going on 3.
And I got to see you guys have so much fun with all these people. And then I got my life straightened out, and I thought, I want to try to have that fun too. And if I can't handle that fun, then I tried, you know. But Travis gave Brad a little piece of. Travis Luter gave my brother a little piece of advice because Travis has had the same neck surgery as I had. He said, tap early and tap often. You don't get yourself in trouble. Just like, Cody always says at the beginning of every class, take care of your partners. You're not going to be able to train if you got nobody to train with.
That's so true. So you followed that, you think, pretty good? You haven't had any bad injuries since you started?
I've had, as a matter of fact, the last 6 months I've had 0 neck pain.
Do you think it's due to jiu-jitsu and all that training?
I think it's building up of the muscles over that, this last year that have taken some of that strain away from that nerve area. That's the only thing that I can say. No doctor's ever said that to me,
right?
But that's what I think it is.
I have some chiropractor friends, and they always state to people, it says, you hear older people and they always say like, oh, I'm getting older, I should, take it easy, I should rest, I shouldn't do that. But my chiropractor friends always say, no, that is actually more important than when you're younger to be doing things, physical, like lifting weights or doing, a sport that you enjoy, because that's how, you keep those bones strong, you keep those muscles working and everything functional. Do you think you're starting to feel that?
I think so. I'm not going to, I know I've gained muscle mass. I haven't gained any weight, which is whenever I was inactive, I was doing low carbohydrate diet to keep my weight in check, because I was up to 250 pounds at one time during that 10 or 12 year period. And without exercise, you can't regulate that. And so I started doing it with diet, and which was no problem. I didn't drink beer the whole time that I was on the morphine. 0 alcohol, none. And because, you wake up dead, you can't mix those two things. And so it wasn't a problem for me to stick with a low carbohydrate diet. And I stayed around. I've probably stayed the same weight, about 215, 218 is what what I run, and I can eat and drink anything I want now.
Yeah, and now that you're off the morphine, it's good to have a nice cold beer.
Enjoy it. I couldn't believe that I had lost that love, but I have regained it, and that was one of the things I did miss.
Yeah. So the old saying, and a lot of people have said it that have been in jiu-jitsu, but like jiu-jitsu has changed my life. Do you think jiu-jitsu's helped get you a part of your life back?
Most definitely. I'm doing things now that I never thought I could ever do again. When the doctor first did my neck surgery, they go in, they x-ray everything post-surgery. You got to heal up and do all that. They want to make sure that what they did was correct. You don't have anything out of place. My surgery was fine, but my pain signal was still on to my brain.
Right.
And that's what the doctor told me. He said, look, that may never turn off. I don't know. But everything that I've done is solid. Everything that we can see, MRIs and x-rays, all your equipment's in there fine. So that was what I was fighting, not knowing whether that was ever going to turn off. And I had lost hope that it would ever turn off. But gradually, over that next 12 years, it just started getting less and less and less. And now it's 0.
Are you kind of amazed by that fact?
Yes,
though?
I am, because when you're in that hole, you don't ever think it's everything. It's nothing's going to change. You're like this forever, and your my mental state at that time was way down there. And just imagine being stuck in a box for 12 years, not ever thinking you're ever going to crawl out of that. And that's what you have to look forward to every day. And it's hard.
So it feels like purgatory in a way.
It does. But I didn't notice it at the time, because when you're in that box, you're comfortable. Now that I'm out of that box and able to crawl out of that box and kick that box to the curb, I can see myself all those, years later. And I'm not that far removed from it.
Yeah. No, it's a year, a little over a year.
I'll be 2 years off the morphine in March.
That's amazing. And, as a family member of yours, I can honestly tell you, being close to you, I'm super proud of you. And now that you're sucked into this whirlwind of jiu-jitsu, because you used to hear,
it's a cult.
It's a cult. It is, but it's a good cult.
It is.
It's a productive cult, and we want to do better for each other and those around us. But you heard like Brad and I and Ethan, talking, like we were nerding out about jiu-jitsu, to put it, kindly towards ourselves. Talking about like Buchecha and all these, old school legends that, other than like the Gracies that people know from the UFCs.
Right.
And you were kind of like, man, what are they into? And now, we're on this text chain. It's the only one I'm in and the only one I'll ever be in. Yeah. So don't anybody ever put me in one. And we just send each other, jiu-jitsu stuff. We
every
talk
day.
jiu-jitsu. We keep each other motivated. And
almost every day.
do you think like something like that, like just find, whether it's friends and family and have something like that, just keep each other motivated, send stuff to keep new moves going and new thought processes?
Being an older person that has gotten into the sport, my goals are different than yours.
Right.
My goal is to stay one step ahead of the Grim Reaper with this, because my health is night and day different than it was 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And I think literally, if I can keep my joints healthy, I can practice jiu-jitsu till I'm 70.
And that would be amazing.
I mean, I won't be competing.
Right.
But I will be keeping healthy, and I will be passing on things that I love to other people to keep them healthy. My motivation to do jiu-jitsu is different than a younger person, because the younger guys, they want to compete, which is great. I've already been to the top of mountains in other places in my life. I don't need to be a world champion. I just need to be involved.
Well, see, and I don't feel like I'm that much different of the, trying to stay away from the Grim Reaper, when it comes to, taking care of your body and all those fun things, because I set this goal in my mind. I want to live to 120 years old. I don't think it's going to be possible if I'm not doing jiu-jitsu up into 70, hopefully 80. And
right.
Honestly, I want to do it even longer if I can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, when I get that age, there's no competing. Unless somebody else is 70 or 80, I'm not competing. But I feel further. I gained a bunch of weight. You saw me when I was in my earlier 20s and just getting lazy in that sedentary lifestyle and getting real comfortable. And now, after losing all that weight, I feel amazing. And I'm sure you feel amazing too after, getting into it, losing weight, getting stronger. Right. But isn't it cool to know, the more you learn, that old Tim Kennedy saying, the harder it is for you to get killed. People aren't going to just walk up on you and just kill you.
Not anymore. Now, even with the mindset that I had, getting off the morphine, I started feeling a lot better because I was exercising. You get that little kind of cockiness in your head. It ain't going to happen to me. Can't happen to me. Well, I'm going to tell you what, it'll happen to you the first time you step on that mat. It's going to happen to you.
You're going to
get humbled. You're going to get humbled, and you're going to stay there for a long time. I would think I was telling you the other day, there's a blue belt in the gym. Jason, I love that guy to death. It took me 8 months to figure out how to pass his guard. And he's 140 pounds soaking wet. And I'm 215 pounds. There's a physics barrier there. But with the art of jiu-jitsu, that barrier shrinks.
Mm-hmm. The more, and you start to understand your body, you start to understand other people's bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to backtrack a little bit. I remember we had a conversation. I want to say it was after about 3-4 months in, after you're 3 or 4 months in, you told me like, man, I don't get road rage anymore. Like I don't get mad at people.
Right.
And is it still that way?
It's calmed down a lot. I've only had one episode, I think, in the last 6-8 months where I got really upset. And I used to hear Brad talk about that all the time. And I'm like, no way, dude. You know, that's just not the way I think. And I was telling this to somebody not too long ago. I just imagine that person in a rear naked choke, and then it goes away. You know, and I just wave and say goodbye.
That's great. You know, I noticed my road rage went down, but I don't think I've ever imagined just like, man, picturing you in my rear naked choke right now. Like I'm gonna have to probably try that one. That one sounds intense. I like it.
It just, you know, there's a difference, and my brother has exemplified this, and I didn't realize it until I started doing it. My brother could literally kill me a year ago. He could probably still literally kill me now.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little harder.
Little, and nobody likes their little brother being able to kill him.
No. And Brad has always been the good guy. I've always been the one that was in trouble, that got kicked out of school for fighting and, you know, things like that. Brad was always, you know, the good guy and never gotten into trouble and you know, never caused any trouble. And I was talking to one of my friends on Facebook the other day, David Hankins, shout out to him, one of mine and my brother's childhood friends. And he goes, you know what? I think I'm going to jump your brother just to see how bad he can kick my ass.
Did you look at him and say,
I said, he's a dangerous man. Don't even try.
I said, that's a terrible idea. You said, as somebody who's been doing this a little bit now.
Exactly.
That's a terrible idea.
Yeah. But, yeah, my brother is one of the most humble persons that you will ever meet, but he's one of the most dangerous persons that I know, you know, when it comes to that.
And that's cool because, you know, like we're saying, you're only a year in. Start imagining, you know, 2 years in, 3 years in, 7 years in.
Right.
Yeah. Because I'm going to tell you right now, like
I'll be getting closer to 60.
Yeah, exactly. But like the more I'm in this, the more I understand my own body, and the more I understand other people's bodies. And jiu-jitsu is fun from day one, even though it takes you like 6 months where you're, you know, not always the nail. Because for the first 6 months, that's tough because you're always the nail. After that, you start to get people here and there.
Right.
Then, and until really a couple years in, then you're like, okay, I can get most of the white belts or whatever. It just takes a while to get to that point. But once you get past that point, like it's like jiu-jitsu takes it up another notch of like your love for it. At least it did for me. And I was like, man, now that I'm getting good at this, and I'm getting, you know, a lot of blues, purples, some browns, I've gotten some blacks in my day so far. And it's just like, man.
Well, I'm still on the blue list, so
yeah. But I mean, that's what
it'll eventually get there. You know, I've only got a year in. You got 3 times more experience.
Exactly.
And I noticed that Monday.
Yeah. I was trying to take it easy on you, Uncle. I was trying to take it easy on you. I had to let you know right off the bat, like, hey, it's still what's up. But
here I am huffing and puffing, and he's trying to teach me the entire time. What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now?
Yeah. But I mean, I like when people kind of do that to me, when people can just absolutely school me.
Right.
And they say that to me. It's kind of, in a way, it seems like, you know, if you take it the wrong way, people get mad. They're like, is that person, you know, shit talking me? But no, they're like, think about this. Think about this. You know, like it doesn't always work if somebody tells you what to do. But if they say, what should you do here? Think about this. Where are you? What's stopping you? You know,
Correct.
Those kind of things. Then you're like, you start using your brain. Then your brain starts going. Then you forget about, oh man, I'm tired. You forget about that. Next thing you know, it's like that second win.
Right.
And then it's just like, it kind of flips a switch in my head anyway. And that's why I think I do it to people that, you know, I want, you know, that I like and I want to get better, especially, is because it starts flipping a switch in your head of like, you talk to yourself differently. And then once you start talking to yourself differently, anybody else you roll with, then you start noticing things. And then I kind of take it back to like a primal, you know, like 4th grade playground days is, you know, back when you didn't know how to fight, especially, but when you bully kids, you would just dominate them. You didn't know how you're dominating, but you would just get, you know, the top position and hold them down, and, you know, and they couldn't do anything. And I kind of think about that in jiu-jitsu, and, you know, to bring it back to Joseph and, you know, watching wrestling and seeing all that, like have you noticed how much jiu-jitsu is wrestling?
A lot. And of course I never do that because I knew wrestling from a spectator sport. I never wrestled a day in my life until I got on the mat with you the first time. And, you know, I know almost all the terminology. I can score wrestling. I can keep track of it. I know what's legal, what's not. I would say 3/4 of wrestling is already in jiu-jitsu. You just have to learn how to fight off your back, which you don't do in wrestling. But
just like a street fight and everything. That's why I say to people that wrestling or jiu-jitsu is wrestling, because you always want to be in a dominant position, especially if you're playing for keeps out, in the real world, you always want to be in that dominant position. And that's how I treat my jiu-jitsu. Like I try not to be on my back, but I'm smart enough to train off my back so I can learn what do you do.
You're dangerous off your back. You let me pass partially. I think it was Monday night. That's something I have to work on between now and March is learning how to attack off my back, which bigger guys don't have to play that game. That's just the physics of the game. We're good at smashing people. Bigger people are. The smaller guys don't want to get smashed. That's why they do all their magic off their back. And
that's why a lot of smaller guys want to play the top game too. Yeah. And I like to let them just because, I try to use technique, as much as I can, but I always know if somebody is smaller and they're really dangerous, I'm like, okay, I'm going to use a little strength out of this. Like, we shouldn't play this game. And then let me smash. But I always want to smash people. But maybe that's the Midwestern in us. That it's that old school wrestling. It's that grind.
Yeah.
And, Oklahoma's known for wrestling.
Right.
And I think that a lot of times I don't even focus on jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu to me is the submission at the end. Until then, we're grappling. It's wrestling.
That's true.
And just like bringing it back to that 4th grade, playground days, I'm going to impose my will through wrestling on you. I'm going to dominate you until I get to a point where, okay, I'm going to use a little bit of jiu-jitsu here. I'm going to choke you. I'm going to arm bar you. I'm going to take your leg. I'm going to do whatever and, make you pay for it. But until then, like, I'll play with people kind of like, especially like if I'm, if it's a newer white belt or something, like I'll kind of play with them like a cat would play with its food before, before it finally finishes it off. But the whole time I'm dominating you doing that. And it's just kind of how you like, the cool thing is like, you don't even see a lot of these, like techniques and things that you should use when you're like first beginning. It's something that you progress once you put your mat time in. It's the whole 10,000 hours to your black belt thing. You have to put in your time. And then once you start putting in, next year when we talk, like you're going to be like, oh, okay, I'm starting to see these cat and mouse games you can play because like it gets really fun. And that really ramps up like how much fun jiu-jitsu will get to you. Yeah. When you start getting to those positions, like you just relax.
Debate.
And I want to bring this up because I watch a lot of tape, and I watch a lot of it, as a fan. I watch a lot of it as, somebody who's trying to get better. And I've been watching a lot of Kevin Holland, UFC fighter, who is in the Anna Invitational. He trains down there with Brad, who we're going to go see next week. Kevin is the most relaxed person I've ever seen on the mats. And he's a brown belt under Travis. And I'm trying to incorporate my game because if you watch all these high-level guys, man, they're so relaxed in there. And I think that there's a huge key to that. And now I'm watching them. I'm like,
I saw a submission only post. I don't know if he posted it on or if my brother posted it for us. And it was one of his submission grappling matches that he just did. It was post the China UFC fight. And he wound up winning that match. But he's talking through the whole thing.
That's so amazing.
Talking and having a good time, and he's kind of clowning a little bit, which is his personality. Nothing wrong with that. And like you said, just so relaxed and smooth. Even I guess when he did the Contender Series, he was pretty much the same way.
Yeah, and I think there's something to that, and it's kind of like the car crash analogy. Like if you're relaxed in a car crash, you're less likely to get the injury as bad. But when you're all tense, well, jiu-jitsu is the same way. So think about it. When you're starting out, how tense you are. As the more experience, the more mat time.
I was like a spider on a hot stove. I didn't know what to touch, what to grab. I was just herky-jerky, trying to go as fast as I could. I wasn't doing anything. And I realized, number one, that's going to tire you out. And it probably took me 3 months just to figure out how to breathe.
And still, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm years in, and I think every day I know how to breathe better. But then the more you keep learning, the more you realize, yeah, I don't know anything.
Right.
So I'm telling you, like, you still got to get that place of like, once you can do it for an hour straight, back to back rolls, then you're like, okay, I'm really starting to figure this out.
Yeah,
And
there was a
that's
lot
a
of
cool feeling,
times
too.
that I was doing a lot of sitting out, watching other people roll that first 6 months, and then you want to roll as much as you can after that. After you've figured out that you're not going to, if you don't use all of your energy, you gotta play the game smart. You can't go at it like you were on the 4th grade playground and just attack and go 100% for a minute and a half. You got 5 minutes this time, but you got another 3 or 4 or 5 minutes after that to keep doing it.
Yeah, and most of the time it's higher level guys,
Right.
depending on. So you're like, oh man, if I'm struggling this much with this person, I got these killers lined up next. Like, what am I doing here? I got to conserve some energy. But that's the thing, is you got to, like, there's places you can learn where you can rest. I don't do gi training as much as you do. You do gi and no gi, which is, I think, pretty awesome. But you have to pick your spots and just figure out, like, okay, I can get my good breaths here, and then the rest of the time when it's hard, you just got to keep figuring out how to breathe during those times. But you got to know when to get your good breaths and when not to expend energy.
Right.
And a lot of that's learning to use your body weight to hold people down, especially when you're in dominant positions. And then a lot of times, like, not letting people pass my guard. It's, most of the time it's after we've been rolling for a little bit. I'm just tired and I'm just trying to breathe, and I can stall you from passing my guard for hours. It feels like, unless you're just some really, really good high level guys, then it may not be as easy for me. Then I just got to learn how to breathe in, inside control, or you get me a mount. I got to escape Alcatraz.
Take that break where you can find it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the key. You realize the places you can take breaks, and the places that, okay, I've really got to do some work because I got to get out of this bad situation. And a lot of those times, that's where you're like spending all that energy. But then you just got to be able to put them back to back to back, and I've been reading this David Goggins book that just came out, Can't Hurt Me. Do you know who David Goggins is?
No, not for sure.
Okay, so he's a former Navy SEAL, and he's out, like, I don't want to get into the whole book because you guys should read this, but he has this mindset where, like, he got up to like 297 pounds after he got out of the Air Force, and then just his relationship with his wife was going bad, and he saw a 30-minute TV show on Navy SEALs, and he always wanted, he kind of felt bad because he took a medical retirement, and he was like, man.
Was he air controller in the Air Force?
He wanted to be a paratrooper.
Yeah.
And then he has sickle cell anemia trait, not the whole thing or whatever it is, the full-blown sickle cell anemia. And he got to a part where he didn't like water. They were doing some like water, jumping out and landing in water and doing like, basically where they try to drown you like they do in the SEALs during buds and stuff. And he didn't like that. So the doctors, they do blood work and stuff on him. Well, they found out that he had the trait, and they kind of found it out, and he took it. Well, he always regretted that, ballooned up and was out of shape, and then saw that, life was going bad, this and that. Well, anyway, now he's an ultra marathon runner. He's 43 years old. He's a Navy SEAL. He was in the Navy for like 20 years, I believe.
I did see that guy on Fox. This is last month. He had I guess his book. He was promoting the book.
Yep.
And that guy he's in good shape.
Yeah. And anyway, he in this book, I'm probably about almost 200 pages in, and he talks about like having this voice of this mental, hardness. Like, you're not going to kill me. You're not going to just like outlast me. And this is stuff I think about like in Jiu Jitsu, of like during those rolls when you get tired, like, and and you feel yourself wanting to quit, and you find yourself just easy to get in those submissions. Like, after listening to Goggins for a while and reading his book and stuff, like,
didn't he do 8 marathons in a row?
Yeah, something like that. He's crazy.
Over like 2-week period or something.
Yeah. The dude, and he's an ultra marathoner right now, like, and he does all these crazy things, and like now he wants to be like a fireman, and and do those, like those wildfires, like where they're digging trenches, like just really hard work right next to fires.
Oh, the jumper guys.
Yeah. And the guy is absolutely insane, but like he talks about like just mental toughness and like the hardness of it. And I'm trying to get so deep into that because I'm trying to treat my jiu-jitsu that way. I want to be so mentally tough. Like when I feel like, what it is when you're breathing really hard, you're dying, your muscles are tired, maybe people are getting the best of you. Like I want to get to that place where like I don't quit, because there's been times I've quit on the mat.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's easy to just slide into that submission and tap and say, I need a break.
And that kills me, man. Like when I go home or, that next day, and it's kind of like I have to go straight back to jiu-jitsu and I have to fix that wrong. And now that the more I read this, it's like I have that voice, that I've always had, where you look yourself in the mirror and you have to, have that come to Jesus talk with yourself. And like just seeing this guy and like seeing what he's gone through, and you're like, man, my life's not so bad. I think I can figure this out. And that's kind of where I am with my jiu-jitsu now. So like when I'm on the mats and you see me, not taking any rounds off when I'm at your gym and this and that, it's because I'm going to be out there and I'm going to outlast you, because I'm going to make you break. You're not going to break me. I'm going to break everybody in that gym. I mean, that's my goal, regardless.
That's your mental goal.
Yeah,
and that's that's the mental state that you're in now, which is good. Like I said before, I never thought I would be even talking about this, with the shit show that I went through, the last decade. But I can see myself doing that now. I mean, I'm going to be 52 here in another month or so, but I can't do it as well as you can. But I've got to be able to do it to the best of my ability.
And that's what I want to say. Like, don't compare yourself, because I try not to compare myself with high level guys that I'm just not there yet. Just like you shouldn't compare yourself to me, to your brother and this and that. But think about how cool it is right now that the you, after a year of jiu-jitsu, can kick the old you's ass.
Oh,
doesn't that make
not even a contest?
Doesn't that make you feel good? Because I look at
like
back when I thought I was hot stuff, when I was younger and before I got out of shape and all that, and especially when I was out of shape. Like I look back and I'm like, man, this version of me is the best version of me.
I will admit that with my own self now. Now, there were times in my life where I was in better shape, but
it's a skill level thing now.
It is. And, because I've done a couple marathons, when I was 30, and that was 2 years ago now. But coming from where I was 10 years ago, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't mowing the yard. How do you think I feel now?
You're out there.
My wife is feeling really good, because I've been mowing the yard for well over a year now.
I know, but that's so cool that jiu-jitsu empowers you so much to become the person like you were. At least you are in your mind, right? When you see yourself. But it's tough when you realize, like, man, I'm not really the person that I see myself as. But you get into jiu-jitsu and then you start doing those things. You're like, I'm that person that I want to be.
I've told it to you before, and like you said, that catchy little phrase, jiu-jitsu saved my life. It has to be the number one thing that put me to where I am now, even just 2 years after, post all that other stuff. And I never thought I would do it. I never thought I could even, get down and roll around on the ground and be able to handle that kind of, stuff. But talking about it, living it, going through this last year, the muscle, stay in as best shape as you can for as long as you can, because that is the key to your health, period. I don't care who you are. That is probably, I probably knocked 10 or 12 years off my life that decade that I was, having to take that morphine. I've crashed that barrier this last year to be able to live another 12 or 15 years longer than I ever thought I would.
Yeah, you're pushing back that grim reaper.
Exactly.
And jiu-jitsu has already taken you places, like through family. Like you've gone out to Vegas to Master Worlds.
Master Worlds this year in August with my brother. Got to meet a lot of the superheroes of the sport.
So hang on,
Buchecha.
How cool is that? Like, this is a sport that you're participating in as an older, person, but you get to meet all the legends because you're that close to them.
Not like the NFL.
Not like the NFL, not like baseball, not like golf, none of that, because you don't get to play with those guys. You could literally take seminars from Buchecha. You could take them from, Gordon Ryan. You can take them from anybody in
all
the
these
world.
people are real, and they're right there in front of you. And all you have to do is walk up and talk to them.
That's so amazing, isn't it?
It really is. I've never seen a sport that was this close, to the heroes of the sport, and they're just normal guys, and they want to talk. Megaton Diaz, talked to him for 45 minutes.
You have pictures with a
two
lot
different
of these guys.
days
Yeah.
while I was there, and that guy's an inspiration. He's almost same age as I am. He's 50 years old and winning world championships.
Yeah.
And still doing it. And then, of course, his daughter. That's your future girlfriend, right?
Hopefully.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, she'd kill me, so she probably doesn't want anybody inferior to her. So I don't know, but like
she can't do a good podcast though.
That's why I'm here, I guess, is to do a good podcast. Maybe I can mow the yard for her. So I'm asking everybody now, who is your favorite jiu-jitsu practitioner outside of your gym, of somebody you know? So it can't be your brother. I know it is, but it can't be.
Cloud Chastity, maybe, who is, I guess, as of this last 2 weeks, women's purple belt no-gi champion, IBJJF. She's done nothing but be inspiring because she's an Army vet. That's one thing that we've had in common ever since I met her. I met her going to my brother's practice.
She trained down at Team Looter?
She trains at Team Looter, and she's an old supply sergeant like me. Of course, she's not that old. She's your age, and so 30. And we have a lot of things in common when it comes to that. She does like music too, some of the music that I like. And so we've had that little thing in common. But she's always encouraged me ever since I put the gi on. She's always been there to say, hey, do your best, do your best. And she's the person that the person that I know outside of my gym that's probably she's my hero.
Somebody, who inspires you.
Exactly.
Hero. Dude, that is amazing. And then you brought up the music, so I have to segue over into Robbie King, your really good friend who makes my intro and outro music.
Yeah, I've been friends with Robbie for 20 years. Met him on the internet in the Napster days, and we were both huge Steve Ray Vaughan fans. He saw my handle, which was SRV 5490, and he knew exactly what I was about. And then come to find out, the guy just lived, 5 miles away from the sister-in-law, which is your aunt, and the brother-in-law, and they're in the music industry too, or music, scene there in Dover. So
Dover, Delaware, yeah.
So I go up there to Dover. I got to meet him for the first time, and he's played with my bands here in Oklahoma. I played with his bands on the East and West Coast, and best guitar player that I know personally.
Yeah, and
so
he's given me some killer intro and outro music. So thank you once again, Robbie. But we have to talk about this because your brother will hopefully listen to this, and hopefully Ethan's listening too, because we give you heck for it all the time. Of your Instagram account, it's all about music, even though you like a bunch of the jiu-jitsu stuff and share it with Brad and I. But you have over 1,000 Instagram followers. You have no idea of social media like us young kids.
Yeah, I don't.
But you figured out the formula of how to get into a niche.
It's a niche. That's all it is.
And people, you'll get 200 and something likes, and I can only get 30.
Yeah, I think the most I've got is a couple thousand. And it's just, you find that one either rare or really interesting photo of the day. I only post once a day. When I first started doing Instagram, it was 10, 15 posts a day. Nobody wants to see that.
No, it's one a day.
One a day, and I take Sundays off unless it's a special occasion. And but yeah,
I think I'm just too all over the place on my social media, like so people can't be like, yeah, no.
Well, you have
I like
a lot of
half your
platforms
stuff.
that you do because you do Twitter and
Yeah,
you know.
you're just on Instagram.
I just do Instagram. I have a Facebook account, but I don't post much there.
Yeah. See, I use the brand and my personal one together, which is probably it is a no, like for trying to grow it, but. Man, it's a hard formula to figure out, and it just blows me and Ethan away that you figured it out, and we should realistically be taking lessons from you on how to do it.
Well,
and the right hashtags and all that.
I'm still I'm not real tech savvy when it even comes to, because I can't post multiple pictures. I can barely do a video. You know, it's just I'm gonna have to actually get a class from you guys.
Yeah, I think we're the ones who need to take a class from you because it's so awesome and I don't know, because I always thought like the formulas would work like if you had to stay in your niche, but you don't. You like a bunch of jiu-jitsu stuff and you message a bunch of it to Brad and I, which I know people can't see, so they don't know you're doing it. But
I've only posted one non-musical post, and it was during the last McGregor fight, and I posted a picture of him on the scales. That was it. That was the only one that's not been guitars, music, things like that. Did
it get 200 likes?
No.
Okay.
It only got about 20, 15.
Okay, that makes me feel better to know that it's me. Yeah, it's probably still me. But we're gonna wrap this up with one final story. So I gotta tell everybody one of the biggest childhood memories that is ingrained in my brain. It was when you were still running a bunch, doing marathons and still, staying in shape for the weekend stuff you were doing at the time, because you're still active duty and all that. But it was when you, myself, my brother Donnie, and your son, my cousin Joseph, we were probably 8, 9, 10 years old between the three of us, all in there.
Yeah.
And we're over here in Norman, Oklahoma, and we went down to the river in Norman. Okay, so we're city limits. There should be no guns. So we're walking down.
That is the city limits, I believe.
It is. Yeah. And you can't hunt down there off the river or anything. So we're walking down there, and Joseph and I, we just thought it would be cool to pick up petrified wood. So, us two, little smack talkers or, way behind you and my brother, and you're always yelling us like, hey, keep up, keep up. So you and my brother are way ahead, which is ironic because my brother's a big kid.
Yeah.
And so we're down there. All of a sudden you hear this rifle, this gunshot just go off. And then you see the sand down, at the bank in between Joseph and I. We're only like 10 yards in between us. Mm-hmm. It skips right in between us. And then we look up and I'm looking at him. So you're to my back because I was turned around, and I just remember Joseph's eyes getting real big and then looking at me, looking at you. Mm-hmm. And then you said, what was that? And then we were like, that was a gunshot and it hit, and you could kind of see.
And then another one came right after that. Yeah.
And you said, boys, run. And so we took off back the way we came. And my brother is so chunky, he couldn't run. Like he couldn't keep up. You had to go get him while Joseph and I, like we were,
y'all were gone.
We were gone.
That was dust.
We were gone.
Oh yeah.
And next thing you know, like here comes you catching up with my brother piggybacked.
Yeah, Donnie.
And we couldn't figure out if they were shooting at us, if they were shooting at a deer, and just couldn't hit the thing.
Yeah, we'll never know that, but that was pretty funny. It's funny to think back on
because nobody got hurt.
Yeah, because nobody got hurt. But yeah, not everybody can say they've been shot at.
I know that was the first time I've ever been shot.
I was in the Army for almost 21 years and never got shot at. So.
That was the first time I've been shot at. So after that, maybe I became a little immune to it. But that was, do you remember that pretty vividly?
I remember that. Yeah, that was pretty freaky because we had just went down there, because it's less than half a mile.
Yeah.
From our house here, and we were just good summer afternoon, gonna have because when I grew up out in Chandler, we had the Deep Fork River, and we'd go down there all the time.
And what turned into a hike turned into a run for your life.
Yeah, exactly. Right up the hill there, back to Highway 9.
That was one of my most crazy childhood memories ever. Was that?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have to tell you guys, the listeners, that because that was. I'm glad it turned out that everybody was okay, but that was one of the most adrenaline rushing experiences of my younger life.
It is different getting shot at.
It is, because I was looking back on it, I wish we had guns to fire back.
Well, yeah. Of course, I have no idea where those shots were coming from. There's just no telling.
Yeah, no, they came from the tree line. Yeah, we were out.
You couldn't see anybody, And by the time, you know, you hear the report and then the rounds hitting pretty close at the same time, you know, they're close, but you can't see them. So,
yeah. So, all right, real quickly, what are you looking forward to in 2019, whether it's jiu-jitsu or whatever in life?
Probably I'm ready for Masters Worlds again in August. Already, I've got at least 2 guys at the gym we're going to go.
I plan on going as long as I have some vacation time if I get a new job.
Well, if you're living down here, we're going to get enough people together where we can make the drive and save money.
Yeah.
So just pile in.
All right. Well, what's your Instagram so people can come check you out and see all this cool music stuff?
Instagram is CrowDog4911. And if you like music stuff, I'm mainly concentrate on the blues side of the music world. There's some rock and roll people in there. I think I did Ozzy for his birthday this year.
Yeah, you've done a bunch of Ozzy, some Black Sabbath stuff, and you cover a wide range of people that can lay down some riffs on the guitar.
Yeah, it's mainly guitar based stuff. You know, you don't have to be just blues.
Oh, plug your gym too, really quickly.
Scott Hewitt, Titan Martial Arts, right here on Lindsay Street in Norman, America.
All right, everybody. Uncle Scott, thank you for being on.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you again for your service. And hopefully next week we'll be able to meet up with your brother and I can get him on.
There we go.
All right, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. We out.
Say hello to the stars above.